No one does it higher. He is the Whole F'n Show. He is RVD, Rob Van Dam. Rob, welcome to the show, my friend.
Appreciate it, Brian. That sounds like my cue, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken. That's me. Whole
that
F'n.
was.
Yes, sir. RVD, Mr. Pay-Per-View, whole damn show, everyone's favorite wrestler. How are you doing?
Well, don't forget, you forgot the most important part, I think. Maybe
Oh,
not for
yeah,
you.
but I forget.
Hall of Famer?
There you go. That's pretty
Yeah,
important
yeah.
too, right?
Okay.
That is definitely. Hey, I know that face. Look at that. Not that. How you doing, Jimmy? Or are you
I'm
part
doing good, Rob.
Yeah, you're good. Okay. Has everyone
Yeah.
got a mic?
What's that?
I said, has everyone got a mic? There's like
Yeah,
18
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
people here. All right, cool. All good. All good. I like to throw back like fuck technology. Let's just do audio. Go back to the days when we just had radios.
hmm
Is that
I
is
agree.
Well, that's because Chimmel keeps telling me I have a great face for radio.
right? I get it.
Rob, are you still out in Cali?
No, sir. I live in Las Vegas. Been out here,
What?
yeah, I've been out here since 2018. So been a minute.
Wow. So the we can't be better than the Cali.
I think everybody, honestly, like it's this, if you get top shelf wherever you go, for me, it's all like I think everybody has access to good weed. There's a little difference, if it's grown in different parts of the country, like Humboldt County, because of the soil and sun and all that shit. But overall, man, I feel like, especially since most of it, is grown indoors with all of the technology to control everything from the moisture to the lighting to everything. You can do that anywhere. It's just equipment and good seeds or clones.
That's
It almost feels like Las Vegas becoming the new Tampa because Tampa used to be the place where all the boys were kind of congregating. Now a lot of the guys like Bear, Godfather, D'Lo, a whole bunch of guys are living out that
Yeah,
way.
but they've been there for 20 years. I mean, those guys I used to visit way before I moved here, like when they
Mhm.
worked at Cheetah. But there is quite a few of the guys I forget. And as far as new recruits, Ray Mysterio moved here recently.
Hmm.
I think what's his face? Dean Ambrose, last I knew him, and his wife, Renee, both here. Kenny Kingston. Yeah, the list does go on and on, but yeah, I mean, you name Godfather, he's OG. He's always been.
that's awesome. Now I have a quick question for you. And so you actually for $100, apparently, which I want to get into that, at 16 years old, had to kiss the $1 million man, Ted DiBiase's feet. Now, please explain this to me. First
Yeah,
of all, well, wait a minute, wait a minute, Rob. How much did you actually get paid? And did you actually kiss his fucking feet, bro?
it was $100 cash, tax free. I wasn't paying taxes yet. I don't know if I was 16. Do you know what year that was, by any chance?
Let's see. It might be in our show.
1987.
There we go.
Well, yeah, I was 16 then. I thought I was a little bit younger, but yeah, I don't feel like I had to, but I was such a big fan. I was so excited to be, called picked out of the crowd. So here's the deal. I went to the shows that were at the Kellogg Center in Battle Creek. They weren't normally televised. We all knew there was going to be a special segment of this show that was going to be televised. And we knew when it hit because the lights changed and everything. Me and my buddy ran down to the front because our seats, were in the back. And he's looking for a volunteer, and he pointed at me. Although my buddy will always say that he pointed at him, and I just pushed him out of the way. But I was so excited to be in there that I was the worst negotiator ever because I knew his deal. He said, I'll give you $100 to do this. You say, no, all right, $200. And eventually he's got to buy you or else you prove his point wrong. So I could have went up to 500, but he didn't even get the $100 offer out of his mouth yet. And I was on my knee kissing his foot. So happy to be part of the show. I slapped Virgil's shoulder. I was like, hell yeah. And it was my first wrestling money. Probably also first $100 I made, wasn't I didn't come from money, man. It was hard. It was a good experience for me, but looking back, damn, I should have held out for more money. That's the whole point. And he probably even wanted me to. You didn't want me to, you didn't want me to go. It would have been more interesting if I was like, no, no, I can't do it. And he's like, $400. Fuck. That would have been better for everybody, but that's the way it went down. I was a little anxious, kind of jumped the gun, was excited to be there. It was all shoot,
So
improv, like I wasn't part of the show or anything. So he pointed, and I wanted to be in that ring so bad that my common sense went out the window.
So, shortly after that, we're talking 87, 89, thereabouts, you go start training with the Sheik. It's been documented how important the Sheik was to your career, but just what got you to that point? Say, hey, I'm going to go start training with the Sheik. Obviously, we know that you now have been a fan for a number of years. What finally got you to that point? Say, hey, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, so I mean, I had done all my homework. There was an ad in a wrestling magazine that said, "Send $5 and we'll send you a list of all these wrestling schools all across the country." And I did, and they did. And so I was calling the phone numbers, corresponding. I was writing letters to the addresses, and I was visiting some as well. And during that time, um, I talked to Larry Sharp at the Monster Factory,
Oh,
Yeah, and I'm just a kid, still in high school even, like because this would have been 89 or 88.
Mhm.
Anyway, around that time, I wanted to be a wrestler when I graduated high school. And Larry Sharp, I heard like he called me back when people were training, so I could hear body slams in the background, and I was like, "Wow, that's so cool." I talked to man, I'm trying to what is his last name? Johnny. Um, I want
Rods?
to no, down in North Carolina. Um, he.
Johnny Weaver?
Oh my God. No,
he
it's
was a
not.
worker, right?
He was a wrestler, and I'm trying to think of who he trained because I talked to that guy recently and was telling him about how I'm just blanking. I have jet lag, so that makes
Johnny North?
no,
No.
no,
Hmm.
North Carolina dude.
Yeah. Hmm.
Legend kind of dude. He trained a lot of the guys down there. And the point was anyway, he was telling me, like you said, are you married? And I on the phone, and I said, no, I'm in high school. And he said, and he said, well, good, keep it that way. Wrestling and marriages don't work out together. She'll have men when you're on the road, and you'll be, banging broads when you're out there. And I was like, oh my God, that's in high school. Also, Killer Kowalski. And I went to visit his school, and he was so cool to me. He picked me up from the airport, took me to the hotel, took me to his school. I got to work out with everybody, for a day, and took me back to the airport. So cool, all himself. And I was just a 185-pound kid. Like he didn't need to do all that. That was amazing to have that experience. And I always wonder if he knew I was the same guy later on when he would introduce his students to Rob Van Dam when we were in the Boston area because he would always introduce me and say, "This guy's the best." And I always wanted him to know I was that kid with the short blonde hair back in '89. But anyway, then I found out about the Chic School, which was 45 minutes from my house where I grew up, where I was still growing up. So I didn't have to learn how to survive in Boston as an adult because, I had no experience with even living by myself or paying any bills. So anyway, for a lot of reasons, the Sheik was a good choice. And synchronistically, the Sheik and Killer Kowalski both got trained by the same guy named Bert Ruby. And so I feel like I'm still in that family tree.
Nice. Well, they sent you this list, like you said, you paid $5. They sent you a list of all the wrestling schools. When
Yeah.
you corresponded with them, how guarded were they about who they allowed in the schools? Were they very like particular?
They were all different, and a lot of them, of course, I didn't get through or didn't get answers back or whatever. And some of them were straight up saying, "Here's our tuition," and I would ask, "How long does it take? What's the duration of the school?" And because I didn't know, it depends on every individual but um, so a lot of the questions with the people that I could talk to were either vague or straight up business, or they seemed, if they were talking to me, they were interested in recruiting. There was one school in Fort Wayne, Indiana that like I can't remember if they made some kind of contact with me and then disappeared. And I was, so into that little hint that me and my buddies drove all the way down there. I think it was like a three hour drive or something, all the way down there. And when we got there, the school had like just closed a few days before we got there, and their logo was painted, spray painted on the wall where they would take pictures or whatever. So we're like, oh, cool. And we took pictures with CZW or whatever the hell it was. And we talked to people in the building because it was like half factory and half open space. And they were telling us that, yeah, the school was in there for a while and they just closed up and they heard they got busted for steroids. And I'm just a kid trying to follow my dream, like trying to, pick up all these clues about the business. But it was a fun time. And that's when I learned, boom, the universe wants me to go to the Sheiks. I can still be home. I can be there in 45 minutes. And of course, that was Lansing. It was Williamston. It was also Weber or Weberville, I think it was called, which, depending on where we were going between, at first it was the Sheik's son's garage where they cut a ring in half. So it was 16 by 18 and had it in a mechanic's garage where it would fit in the winter. And then it was
Good Lord.
yeah, that was the first time I stepped in. And then it was Sheik's backyard and then Sabu's backyard and the area. So worked out very well that I had no idea that there was even such thing as independence until like shortly before that. I all we got was WWE on our TV there. It wasn't until I was like an older teenager when cable finally came to our street, and then my dad wouldn't get it, but in my neighbor's house, I could start seeing some of these other groups like AWA, NWA, UWF. Like I was into it. Like I loved it all, but I had no idea that anything existed outside of WWE until shortly before um, being exposed to it and then learning, you know, from the Sheik. And he actually ran shows. So my first show was actually what would be Sheik's last show that he promoted.
So Rob, real quick, back then, what was tuition roughly in some of these places you scouted out compared to today? You know what I mean? Was it
Yeah.
1,000?
Well, it depended. I remember the Hart brothers had something that it seems like it was 4,000, but it was more of a crash course for people that are in the business already, looking back at it from what I know now, because it was like an 8 week thing. It was um, uh, Killer Kowalski was either 3 grand or 3,500, and the contract, which I still have with the Sheik that I signed was for 2 grand, which, by the way, I never completely finished paying off. You know, he would say, yeah, he would say, just bring me some money next time you come to train. I don't care what it is. And I was bagging groceries for 3.35 an hour, minimum wage at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, but he was saying, just bring me anything, whatever it is. If it's $20, it's 50, as long as you're making payments. And I was like, cool. And we had that relationship going for a long time until I guess I started traveling or whatever. And years later, I told Sabu, I said, hey, I still owe money to the Sheik, like I want to pay him off. That's I found this contract and it was probably 10 years ago last time I made a payment, 20 years ago, whatever. Sabu was like, nah, don't worry about it. I already gave him the money. I paid him off. That was Sabu.
Oh,
You know, that was Sabu. He was always overly generous. Anyone that knew him probably has stories of how generous he was. And I've told several, but one I haven't told that just, Katie and I just drove by where Sabu used to live like yesterday. And I said, oh, there's the Starbucks where that dog was. And I thought, that'd be a story I should share too. Just to let's give you a little insight on what kind of guy Sabu was. I walked with him from his place to Starbucks. This was 2 years ago, maybe three. And he wanted coffee late at night, whatever. And then this girl, woman, walked up and she had the cutest little puppy. And we both love dogs. We're like, oh, we're petting it and stuff. And she's like, do you want to buy this dog? And we're like, why are you selling it? And she says, she says, we need the money, and she's like, $40, you can have the dog. And Sabu opened up his wallet and goes, here's $40, but please keep the dog. Don't get rid of
oh,
the dog, please. And I'm sure she went and resold it and maybe got $80. I don't know, but that's just the kind of guy he was.
that is simply amazing, man. I had some experiences with Sabu. Um, it was when I don't know if you remember this or even heard about it, but Hermie Sadler used to run some shows, and I had to pick him up at the airport. And I was younger, you know what I mean, still trying to get in that grind. And he said, "I'm hungry. Is there any way you could pull off somewhere?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. There's a Hardee's right up here." He was like, "Okay." And he went in Hardee's, and I sat in the car and I waited for him. And it took him a little while. I wasn't sure what was going on. So I got out of the car and went inside. And I said, "Are you okay?" And he was like, "Yeah, man, I'm waiting on your burger." And I said, "My burger?" I was like, "I didn't ask you to get me anything, buddy." He's like, "Hey, man, you picked me up at the airport. I'm getting you a meal. Is that cool?" And I was like, "Yeah, but did you get it with no pickles?" He was like, "Well, you can pick them things off."
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's definitely Sabu for
Yeah,
sure.
no doubt. No doubt.
Since day one, since day one. I remember this was I think maybe my third match. It was like 1990, like forever ago, super green. And it was in Vermont, Burlington, Vermont. Anyway, uh we all went somewhere to eat afterwards. And I brought a friend with me that wasn't even, a wrestler. He was like a little brother to me, but it wasn't on the card, wasn't even a worker yet. And anyway, Sabu like grabbed his bill and we're like, whoa, you don't have to pay that. And this made sense to him the way he said it. He goes, he didn't work tonight. He didn't make any money. I did. So I got him. And
Oh,
yeah,
that's awesome.
he didn't make no money tonight.
Yeah. You produced the Sabu documentary. How emotional must that have been for you?
Oh my God. I still cry thinking about it. Feel like crying right now, to tell you the truth.
Wow.
Um, this movie, it comes out September 15th, by the way. I made it with my partner, Joe Clark. We made a movie about me with concussions called Headstrong, which is on Amazon. And I definitely want to work a lot with him. He's really talented, not just with documentaries, but if you ever check out the stuff, he's done something where he starred in it, directed, wrote the script, everything. Amazing. I think it's called Alta Drive, Vista Drive. Anyway, dude's amazing. And Headstrong was super important to me, as of course is the Sabu doc. But for that, I I had a lot to say about it. Like we butted heads a lot. I was over his shoulder frame by frame uh through the whole thing, with wanting to edit, even make cut that music off like 2 seconds shorter. This one I gave him a lot more free reign. He had a passion to do this, and he and Sabu got together a lot without me and worked on it hard for like the better part of the last year, right up to Sabu dying. And I'm in it quite a bit, but uh, mostly it's Joe's passion project, and then I would see like what he's done and then add like the most important biggest notes that were really important, and some of the other notes I'd let slide or whatever. And it came out really good. It's mostly about the real guy, Sabu. You get to see who this man is at this point in his life, getting ready to do what he said was going to be his last match, and you can see how important his performances are to him, how important the fans are, and you can see where he's at, and um, I'm just I'm gonna say frighteningly, just because I can't think of another, as eerily, let me put that in there, that works better. Eerily, you can see Sabu actually kind of preparing to die. And it's weird because there's so many things that we caught. And on top of that, I have so many texts on my phone that lead us to believe he had a feeling that after this match, his number was up, and it seems like he was trying to tell me. I literally have messages, several of them on my phone saying, "Hey, Rob, we gotta get together, bro. You don't know how much time we have. We might not have that much more time." And I would just rib him and say, "Why, you going somewhere, bro? Or you know something that I don't?" And he'd say, "Anyway, you get the point." And in the
Mhm.
movie, you catch that vibe, you catch that spirit, and it's he's a spiritual guy. And so seeing him go through this pathway in some ways seems to make him bigger in an Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of way, where he could shed the weight of the physical body down and just be the spirit that he was.
That's amazing, man. It really is. That's amazing. Well, the last thing I want you to not do is cry. So I'm going to flip the topic here, and I want you to explain to the fans because there was many times I would come up to you and we would go over a match that I was involved in with you, and you were on a mat that you would find somewhere in the building or make your own or a towel or something, and you were being the most uncomfortable positions I've ever seen in my life, where where your head was facing me, but your ass was that way and your legs were this way, and you were just, bro, what the fuck? I've never asked you. I'm doing it now. What the fuck? I mean, I know it's stretching, but that's to another level.
But that's the thing, is in order to feel like I'm at my best, I have to go through my stretch routine, and I need to put myself a little bit past the borders of what's comfortable, so that I know that no matter what happens in the ring, chances are on my side that I'm not going to get hurt. And because of the wrestlers know that, there's been a history of them like German suplexing or throwing me on the back of my head with my knees bouncing off the mat, or putting me in a Boston crab and putting my feet like inside my ears because they know I'm. Some of that shit would really, get to a point where it was stretching, but I wouldn't let them know. If it really did hurt, I would suck it up. The last thing I would let anybody know is that they got to me, but they would test me, so I had to test myself first, before the match, in the back on the floor on the towels you're talking about, or hopefully a mat somewhere.
So also, Rob Van Dam, is that cliche to Claude Van Dam? Where's this name originate, and how'd you come up with that? Because I know that WCW didn't like it when you got there. They changed your name to some. I was in my sheet. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. So So what Sheik taught me and Sabu is the first couple of years that you're wrestling. Just it doesn't matter what they call you or what they do with you. Just try to get ring time. A
Mhm.
lot of people would seem to do it backwards and say, "I got a cool name. You think I should be a wrestler?" Or "I got a good look." And a lot of guys did get hired off of that. And some of them proved to be um, not too good contributions to the business. If they got but but anyway, during that time, the first couple of years, which for me was 90, 91, I was whatever, Rod Zat, Robbie Z, International Patriot, Flying Tiger, the Polish Prince, different versions of my shoot last name. And then it was Ron Slinker, promoter in Tampa, Florida, who in Midian's father-in-law, did that make him his stepdad or his father-in-law? His mom's husband.
Say that
Anyway,
again.
stepdad, I think. But anyway,
Yeah.
anyway, the guy saw me in Tennessee in 91 when I was just starting out. He thought I looked like Jean-Claude, and he was the first guy to tell me that I'm going to be a world champion someday. And when I left Tennessee, I just kept in touch with him, ended up going down to Florida in November of 91 before my 21st birthday. And he said, "You're going to be Rob Von Dam." And I was just like, okay, whatever, because that was the rule at that time, right? I never heard, I don't remember ever hearing that I looked anything like Jean-Claude until he said it. You know, but he was like, you're from Belgium, you're going to be his brother. And I can't do that, or his cousin. Oh, okay, maybe his cousin, and when I was just 20 years old at the Tampa Sportatorium, when we just opened it up, shy as could be, like, I don't even, I probably haven't even done a promo. Well, I guess I've done a couple. I've seen him recently from Al Snow's promotions in 90, 91. But anyway, I had to try to sound like I was from Brussels, Belgium. Green kid. First time introducing myself, there's Rob Van Dam, and my first time in front of people. And even though I was shy as could be, I was like, I'd like to thank everyone for being here for me tonight. I, and I just did my best Jean-Claude thing. And then he told me to tell everybody, that he was my cousin. So I did for a couple of years. People would say I look just like him. Some people think they're talking to him. People come up to me. Fans are confused, and they come up a lot of times and say, I love your movies. Once in a while, but it's a small percentage of the time they really are talking about my movies. But I
That's funny.
never expect it, though. I'm always like, wait, what movies? I'm expecting to hear Lionheart, Kickboxer. And once in a while, they'll come up with, something where your daughter was kidnapped. I'm like, wrong side of town, dude. That is my movie. I don't remember ever hearing that I looked like him before, and then people were like, thought that we were, very, very much looked alike. And I once in a while I'll see it in a picture, whatever. But anyway, it was a while till I stopped telling people I was his cousin. So I owe people apologies from like 91 till like probably 93, 94. Like, sorry.
Oh, fuck them.
But you know what? Looking at the bigger picture, we're all related through Adam and Eve, brother.
There you go.
There you go. There you
But
go.
also, people ask this too, about the name and shit. No, it's not my real last name. It's not his real last name either. He took it from someone, yeah, he took it from someone that inspired him, an actor over there named Van Damme. His name, Jean-Claude, is Van Varenberg. Mine is Zakowski. His is Varenberg. So there you go. We both, and it was just something I didn't come up with it. Ron Slinker did. Obviously, it worked and it stuck. And you're right. In WCW, Bill Watts was like, "Why would you want to be confused with someone else that's doing something else? Make a name for himself. You're making a name for yourself." And I was just, people told me to. Actually, Slinker there, he was buddies with Bill Watts, so he got me the job. But anyway, it was also Slinker that was like, "I got it, Robbie V." And I was like, Well, that's cool. I mean, if I gotta not be Rob Van Dam, Robbie V, I can be the same guy then, right? And by the way, it was a short part of my life from like December of 92 till May of 93 that I was with WCW as Robbie V. But I see that Ringside Collectibles is making a new action figure of it, which is
Nice.
pretty funny, but also really
Cool.
cool because I love action figures. But so I'm barefoot there. That's the difference.
Funny. I'm gonna switch gears a little bit, go a little further down the line. You the atmosphere at One Night Stand was just something that's always been unbelievable when you go back even watch it to this day. Can you describe like what that was like? Going in against Cena in that match, and just how crazy those fans were to have ECW back for the first time at that point in a long time, right? So
That was
Right.
wasn't that where they like booed the shit out of him and
Yeah.
Cena,
yeah.
yeah, they said
Yeah.
Cena. If Cena wins, we riot. Yeah.
Yeah. Rob, talk about that, buddy.
Well, I mean, that particular night, of course, was exceptionally powerful, but that's the way the ECW crowd was, and I'd been there from 96 to 2001. That's the crowd that I learned to master, and those were my people, and I loved performing in front of them. That was the most fun I had in my career, were those matches back then with Sabu or with Jerry Lynn. Or there was a while I had the TV belt for like 2 years, and we were bringing guys in from other companies, One Man Gang or Kamala or Furnace and Profit, whatever, to challenge me, and that was just so much fun out of my whole career because um, something that always stuck with me that a wise man named Ben Masters from Cordele City, Georgia, told me. He said it's consistency. If you want to be the best in the business, you have to have consistently. You have to have the best matches, regardless of who you're in the ring with, and that always was my agenda, my goal. So whether it was Spike Dudley or Little Guido, or whether it was Viscera or Bam Bam Bigelow or anything in between, that's what was important to me. And I just remember like I felt that crowd and they felt me so much. So basically, my whole career leading up to that match with John Cena was the buildup for it in my mind. That's why it's the most standout and means the most to me. I brought ECW back by planting the seed in Vince's brain for the idea because that's where my passion was. A lot of us that were in ECW, our hearts never left it. That was still so much fun. We had a deeper connection with the crowd, and so to be able to relive those moments and bring it back, man, I tell you, that night with Cena, it was like revisiting the old ECW crowd, but times like 50 because they were so hot that night. And because Cena was so over and the whole match was so important for the WWE Championship. And I felt totally indestructible. Is it undestructible or indestructible?
Either
Use,
or. You're Rob
use the
Van
right
Dam.
one. Edit the other one out for me. But I did. I felt like I could not be hurt. Like there was just, I felt like Superman that night. It was such an awesome feeling, and everything just seemed to be happening. Everything just seemed perfect, and that was the moment. That was definitely the moment of my career. So that's the best way I can explain the people. I mean, they were so hot. There was so much energy, and I knew that he was ballsy for even being there because they were going to be raining hate on him for everything. They they hated everything that he stood for and loved everything that I stood for. So it wasn't even so personal about us individuals. It was more about what we represented, what we brought to the industry in a much bigger way like that. And so, I'm thankful for him because that was definitely the moment of my career where it was payoff for every match up until that point. Me sticking to my guns, refusing to conform to traditional values when I had my own, and just being myself when people tried to change me, and it all paid off that night. I was vindicated as the world champ, and ECW was coming back as a third brand. So forget Cloud Nine. I was on Cloud 420.
Rob is John is John. Yes, you were. Is John the goat?
Dude, he definitely is definitely one of the best for sure. I don't know what all I would put into trying to if I had to pick a number one guy, but for most of my time in WWE, he was the number one guy. And not only was he a master in the ring, can being able to know the whole everything, like the yay boo spots of hitting, like that's how he knows everything to with these, to man, I tell you, quick story. That wasn't the first time I saw him booed. I think it was in Wales, and the whole crowd was booing him. This was leading up to this match. First time I'd seen it, and I was like, oh my God, I thought he was God in WWE, and they were boo. And he got on the mic and he was like, that's right, you guys are booing, huh? Good, we'll let it out because that's what you're here for. And that's why you bought a ticket so you can let your energy out and be heard. And we hear you. And I'd rather that you scream and boo me than you stay there and quiet because that means that what we're doing is working and you're reacting. And that's what we're here for is to have a good time. And man, he turned them right around. I was like, oh my God, he's got puppet strings in his fingers, man. It was amazing. And so anyway, on top of that, though, of his abilities in the ring, man, that dude worked hard because even where I was at, like the stop was like the travel was nonstop with the WWE, just town to town to town to town. John Cena was doing like so much more than that, whether it was doing the Make a Wish special visits or going to hospitals, or whether it was just showing up different places for interviews to do promotions. And our schedule was so packed, it wasn't like there was a lot of room to add on to it. And so you just giving up more of what could be considered your real life at that point. So I always thought, man, people like to look at top guys and say, man, that'd be great to be making the money they're making. But also, they're working so hard that, not everybody could do it. There's no doubt about it.
You mentioned earlier your affection for ECW, which is completely understandable. But at the same time, there's a lot of misconceptions out there about what ECW was and represented. What is one thing that you'd like to correct a lot of fans who just label it as, and I'm doing the air quotes for those who can't see it, just a hardcore wrestling company?
Yeah, well, it was a place where all of us really got to become in touch with our inner selves and learn how to express it without being held back by either political agendas or things that we would find to be not even relative, to our goals. There's a lot of garbage in the business that wasn't there, but it was extreme. So I think extreme and hardcore aren't necessarily the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the internet mark community not that long ago was giving me hell because they found out that I wasn't a huge fan of death matches or of garbage matches, which are basically the same thing, except you don't even have to be a wrestler to be able to do it or know how to wrestle.
Yeah.
And they were all, oh my God, you're a hypocrite because you're ECW. But then Taz said the same thing. And anyway, it wasn't about that. That was one side of it, mostly
Mhm.
for me. I feel like New Jack and Mustafa had that part of the show where they would come out with a shopping cart full of weapons that the fans brought and just beat each other over. There wouldn't be like usually one headlock in their match. I didn't know if they could even do a headlock. And I was into doing my own thing, which was trying to be trying to be the master of extreme with my athletics, but also with the punishment that I could endure with creativity, using the chair. working it in, hoping to do shit they haven't seen before. And then, I would look at people when I first got there, like Lance Storm, and I'd say, what is extreme about him? And then I would see how the crowd would react to him. And he was good enough, to be a good heel there, and get by on his talents of just being a technical wrestler that would never even cheat normally. Like you can't even picture him cheating. And just everyone had like their own spot, little Spike Dudley, like like we mentioned, and for Dreamer, Raven, everybody represented like a different kind of wrestling or culture, and we all brought what we did to the table, and it was like a mesh of everything with no rules. So kind of like when UFC started out, it was like bringing in all these different styles together. It was like, what if a Muay Thai fighter fights a jiu-jitsu guy or whatever, and that's what that's what it was until there was a hybrid called MMA. So that's kind of like with ECW. I kind of feel like a lot of us had different styles, not quite as categorically maybe as the other martial arts, but I kind of feel like one of the hybrids that came out of mushing everything together is um, some of the wrestling that we have today that I would call death matches.
Interesting.
So, Rob, I have to ask you this too, buddy. Um, when TNA was at a high peak, we were on Spike TV, 1.2, 1.5 million viewers a week, yada, yada, yada. You came in. Um, I was super, super stoked. I was actually surprised. And I feel like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like those were some good years for you as well, as far as like your entrance music, the fans into you, that kind of thing. We had a good time. I mean, we had a good time, and you were featured very highly there. And I, I know your allegiance or what you believe, basically the for your career is probably ECW. I would think. Would you find that TNA, your time there, was something that you remembered as a good thing?
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of times I'll get asked to compare the three, meaning ECW, TNA.
Actually, that was my point, Rob.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And yeah, it was a good time. I was treated well there. It wasn't as fun as ECW for me. Um, and WWE was bigger. So it's like ECW is the most fun. WWE really makes you a big worldwide star, and 100 so many more people watch that. The whole time I was with TNA, I would still, when people see me in person, they would still ask like, "Hey, are you wrestling anymore, or are you retired?" And I'd be like, "Dude, I'm on every week on TV." But anyway, ECW was the most fun. Part of that fun was still building myself, which means being hungry, which I wouldn't want to be hungry again and go back to that. But with TNA, it was fun. It was good business. And where it rates the most for me is it was the easiest. It was the easiest because I went from 5 to 7 days a week traveling to all of a sudden, when I first got there in 2010, I would do 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, every 2 weeks. Come to Orlando, direct flight. I'd be there for 2 days in the same hotel. We'd do the TVs, right? One live and one for the next week, and then boom. So for that was the easiest, most convenient job for the money. Easiest, funnest, and biggest.
All right, Rob, I have one more thing I want to say. I'm going to let the guys have the floor, but I want to jog your memory. Okay.
Sure.
2013, Bound for Glory. We were in San Diego, California. Um, I don't know if you remember the setup, but the way the hotels were set up, it was like a little village. And this is where Kurt Angle was inducted into the Hall of Fame, if that jogs anything. And me and you took off and went for a little ride, and we came back and we went to this party that was actually there. And I wanted to know if you had anything, which I knew you did, and you told me it was. You can correct me if you remember. Synthetic. It was not like real weed. It was like. Is that right?
Spice. Yeah, that's
Okay.
right.
Okay. And I don't know if you remember this or not. It was me, you, and Jason. If you remember, Knight Rider, Jason James. Anyway, me and you went back to this little party that was but all teenage people, a few little couple fans or whatever. Brother, I lost my fucking mind.
Oh, that is starting to sound familiar. Yeah.
You were mad at me because I just dipped out and didn't say a word to you. I left. I just couldn't stand it anymore. It was just so
Yeah,
God.
I do remember that, dude. I don't remember what the village looked like and all that shit, but I do remember that. And that shit was crazy. So the deal with that was it was legal weed, and for most of my run in TNA from 2010 to 2012, I was smoking that on the road because I'd already gotten busted in WWE and several times for carrying weed. And here was this legal weed that I could buy when I land at the airport. I would get an apple from Quiznos at the Orlando airport, and then I would stop at the pipe store where they sold this synthetic weed, and it was like branded. Like I'd get Mr. Nice Guy. I knew exactly what to expect. It was crazy, but it was actually stronger than normal weed, than
You
natural weed.
ain't fucking shitting me,
Yeah,
brother.
yeah, yeah. And it gave me energy and stuff. It made me feel, I'd be like running laps around before TV there. I figured it wasn't quite as healthy as organic because it was, made with some kind of a spray that they made, a chemical. But for me being in Florida for a couple days every 2 weeks, I was like, it's not worth getting busted. And I was smoking that at the time. I never had a bad experience until I did. And when I did, holy shit, it was one called Devil's Advocate. And yeah, I was at a convention, and I had to get off by myself because I was tripping, and people's faces were melting and stuff. It was
Oh,
it was crazy. And I knew I just needed to buy time. I went off by myself, and I was like, okay, this is not fun. I don't know if I need to eat or what, but yeah, that shit that got pulled off the shelves.
Rob, just to give you something like that night, right? I left that party. When I say you were mad at me, you were concerned. You were like, where'd you go? And I didn't know where I went. Like, I didn't know. I was walking through that village. I must have knocked on, I'm not exaggerating, 10 doors or try to put a key in 10 doors to get to my place. And to remind you again, it was on hills where these places like the
I'm picturing a place, but I thought that was Phoenix, and I
I
wrestled.
did too. I did too, but I looked it up and it says it's in shit, what did I just say?
San
You said
Uh
Diego.
San Diego.
yeah, it's where
Wrestled what's it, Zenith or whatever, the kid for the X Division title and beat him. Like I remember everything there, but I just thought it was Phoenix.
I
Yeah.
did too. I'm not gonna lie to you, I did
All
too.
right.
But it doesn't say that. It says that we were in San Diego. I don't know. Um
Okay.
I googled it because that's where I remember Kurt Angle got inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Right. Yep. Okay. Yeah. I do
But
remember.
anyway, I was sitting on the curb and I actually called Jason James and said, dude, can you come get me? He's like, you're in the complex. And I was like, am I in the complex? I don't know where I'm at, bro. Because me and him left together and he's like, all right, I'll talk to you tomorrow. See you. Have a good night. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, it was awful, bro. It was like what you said, the melting faces. Everybody was looking at me. I was like, fuck, I gotta get out of here.
Damn, that like it never happened to me for like the whole 3 year run I was there. And then it was like after I was done doing one of the first, I think it was the first WrestleCon in New Jersey, and it was weird because I just left the table, like just finished, and they went to the bathroom, and then all the fans are trying to hit me up for freebies. Hey, can I get a picture with you and stuff? And I'm like, and they go, I mean, I know it's what they say. I know it's not fair because you don't make your money. And I was like, it's not about that. It's not fair to everyone that just paid and that waited for an hour. And then
Right.
after it's done, asked me for a free one. And then their faces started melting. And I was like, oh my God, I was pouring sweat. And I was just like, I need to somewhere dark and find some room where nobody can see me melt. But like 3 years, I never had a bad experience. And then I actually, like a year or two later, I found that bag of Devil's Advocate and I tried it again just to see if it would be consistent reaction with the same stuff. And it was bad. Yeah.
Yeah, that's shit you gave me. Thanks. Appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know
Hey,
you were so rude about it.
no, you're good, man. You're good. Hey, Rob, here's where we're at the point of the show. Which
Well, hang on.
anything you want to put out there, go ahead. We're gonna lay out. The floor is yours, buddy.
Oh, yeah, dude, watch the Sabu doc. Comes out September 15th on Kinema. It's like cinema, but with a K, and it's also the platform that Raven's documentary is airing on. So you need to find that anyway. And if you're interested, check out Only Wrestlers Association. It's a platform where you can follow wrestlers and chat with each other and all kinds of shit. But also, we do shows, and the members get to vote on things at the shows. And we have a show coming up in San Antonio. So if you're interested, check that out. And I'll see you on the road. I'll see you at Rhode Island Comic Con next in
Awesome.
November. Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, Rob, I did see something on you. It was on regular cable, where I guess it was something about concussions as well. Does that ring a bell? It was on what's that? Reels?
Oh yeah, no. So I said my documentary Headstrong was on Amazon, but also we sold it to Reels.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that. It was great, dude.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, I that was like I said, over his shoulder with every editing like frame. It was just he and I did the whole thing, and so selling it to Reels, pretty good. For me, that's a pretty big W. And there's a lot of projects that I would like to do, like follow-up documentaries with our brothers, especially ones that don't have documentaries already, but would have very interesting stories. You know, like the Mike Awesomes out there, and many others. But anyway, this is the next one though, and we probably will do a lot more. We hope to, but this one, pretty proud of as well. You really get to see Sabu exposed and learn about the man behind the myth. You know, you get to see him getting ready. You get to see him when he's most vulnerable at his own in his own home and everything. And also it dispels a lot of the rumors, which maybe people have forgotten about it by now, so I don't even know if I should bring it up. But having said that, there was a lot of bullshit that was said after he died. People were talking about blaming Kratom and blaming the company for giving him Kratom, and saying that his feet, he couldn't walk and his feet were bleeding and he had to super glue his feet, and they were all concerned. There was so much. I don't know if you heard any of that, but okay, yeah, it was. A lot of the fans will know what I'm talking about because it was really heavy gossip. Joey Janela was taking a lot of heat for it, when he had nothing to do with it. They were saying Sabu shouldn't have even been wrestling. And this documentary will take you behind the scenes the whole day. It covers everything that I just mentioned. And you'll have a totally different perspective than just listening to the internet mark community.
That's awesome, Rob. Rob, well, I really want to thank you, man. And you've always been a great dude to me, and we've always had fun. We've had lots of laughs, and you know what? I miss you a lot, and I would love to see you down the road. I don't know where that will be, but
Starcade, are you going to be there?
I don't really do anything, Rob.
Do you live in North Carolina?
No, I live in Virginia, but that's not that far.
Sounds like something you should be at, dude.
All right. Well, I want to see what I can do. We're actually working on bringing the podcast to. Are you gonna be at WrestleCade?
Maybe that's what I'm trying to say.
That's what he's saying,
Okay.
but it's okay. Yeah.
Okay, we're trying to bring the podcast there, so that'd be awesome. I would love to see you, man. Hang out. Just don't bring that synthetic shit or whatever it is you got.
Oh, it'd be crazy if I found that in a drawer somewhere from 20 years ago.
I would kill you as your face is melting.
Yeah.
Well, brother, we love you, man.
Right on, man. Yeah, love you guys. Appreciate it. Good seeing all of you. Good luck with the podcast. Enjoyed it and have a fantastic day.
Hey, what's your podcast? Tell everybody what's your podcast.
It's called One of a Kind. And I don't it airs like on a bunch of platforms, so I don't really know how to plug that because it's on like 2 pages on YouTube and then some kind of I don't know.
I got you, brother.
Yeah.
You're the best, Rob. Thank you so much, buddy.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Rob.
Hey, thanks, guys.